Good evening, everybody. I will call this meeting to order at 6:01 PM. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alternate member Damian Butler. Member David Vanderpool.
Here.
Member Cesar Marufo.
Here.
I failed to take off. Member Keith Bacon. Vice Chair Steve Cooley.
Here.
Chairman Thomas LeMasters.
Here.
Treasurer Baron Janetti.
Here.
Councilmember David Fenn.
Here.
Councilmember Julio Martinez stated he would be a little late this evening.
Yeah, Julio is on the Cal Cities broadcast. I was on that and just logged off, but he'll be on that a little longer than me.
Got it.
So who else is with Tom and Nicole in the council chamber?
Member Marufo.
Okay, thank you. I thought so, but I didn't see them on the screen. I figured they had to be at the meeting room.
Yep, just three of us in here.
Okay.
I take it there are no requests for excused absence, Nicole?
Correct.
Just the tardy of Member Martinez,
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez. Vice Chair Cooley, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any adjustments to the agenda? I do not see or hear any. Are there any conflict of interest disclosures tonight? There appear to be none. Public comment period for items not on the agenda. Please note this meeting will be open to the public and conducted in a virtual format to be inclusive of all participation preferences. Public comment participation is encouraged by emailing any comments to the city clerk's office or by calling in using the phone number provided on the front of the agenda. Please note there is a 3-minute limit on public comments. There will be no sharing or passing of time to another person, and state law prohibits the committee from discussing or taking actions brought up by your comments. Clerk, are there any public comments?
I have none. Jennifer, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers.
Thank you very much. Item number 1 on the agenda, the approval of minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to review, and is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes.
Motion by Councilmember Fenn. Is there a second?
I second that.
Second by Vice Chair Cooley. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fenn.
Yes.
Treasurer Janetti.
Yes.
Chairman LeMasters.
Yes.
Vice Chair Cooley.
Yes.
Member Marufo.
Yes.
And Member Vanderpool.
Yes.
The motion carries. Item number 2, current vacancies and upcoming end of term. Staff report, please. City Clerk.
Switch gears here. So before you this evening, committee, I've just brought to you the chart that shows all of the current seats being held on the committee. Currently, there are 2 vacancies. Recently, the city has received a resignation notice from member Keith Bacon. So this has another vacancy. Currently, the City Council has initiated to allow staff to open the application process. So the application period is now open for anyone that would like to apply for any of these positions. The deadline to apply is November 30th. And City Council will make appointments to the various boards at their meeting of December 7th. The current terms and vacancies are listed on the staff report. The one that I wanted to point out was the seat that Mr. Vanderpool was recently appointed to. took the place of Member Parks, who had a term expiration of December 2021. So for that position, there would need to be a reapplication to that seat.
Okay. Is it possible for me to move into Bacon's seat? I don't know if that's possible because he came in with me, so
That would have to be a call of the committee.
oh, okay. That's true. I'm just throwing that out there so I don't have to submit the application again, but it's up to you guys.
Is that a committee call or is that a council?
The council appoints members to the committee itself, but within that, I believe the committee would have the ability to do so.
So would it be appropriate at this point in time to make that motion? That the committee recommend Mr. Vanderpool be appointed to that position that has a longer time period?
Makes sense if we can do that.
So if it's appropriate, I would make that motion.
Yeah, I think my read on it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, anyone here. I would, and perhaps this is just my cautious side coming out, is, if Mr. Vanderpool replaced someone who had been appointed through 2021, then it's the position, since that's the position that he is in, then that position that he holds or that he occupies, he would have to reapply for a second term. It strikes me as perhaps excessively informal if we were to move him into another slot, since
Okay.
he is officially in that slot. That's my take on it, my read on it. I am open to being persuaded otherwise.
Todd, do you have any opinion on this? So that we don't do something that might not look right, appropriate?
Yeah, these are city council appointees to each of those specific positions. And so I think we should report back that Mr. Vanderpool would be interested in assignment to that other vacated slot. So but I do think it's a city council appointment process that needs to happen.
Sounds good.
David, I think you could just take your old application and just put a new date on it and submit it.
All right, that's what I will do. Is it online now?
Mr. Vanderpool, I'll send you a email with the link
Okay.
and all of the details.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
It's not like you're going to have a lot of competition.
Yeah.
No, I'm just asking. I don't know. I've got to, keep it all legit.
Exactly.
I totally understand.
Exactly.
All right, is there a motion to receive and file the report as submitted?
I'll make a motion to receive and file the report from the city clerk.
Motion by Treasurer Janetti, is there a second?
I will second.
Second by Vice Chair Cooley. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fenn,
Yes.
Treasurer Janetti,
Yes.
Chairman Lemasters,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cooley,
Yes.
Member Marufo,
Yes.
Member Vanderpool.
Yes.
The motion carries. Item number 3 on the agenda, assignment of subcommittees to new tasks directed by the City Council. Staff report, please. Deputy Clerk Nicole Wheelwright.
This item was initiated by the committee, but I just put it in writing for all of you so that we could have it for ease of appointing subcommittees to the new tasks that were taken to City Council. So the items that the committee brought forward to council that they approved are as follows. City Council prioritized this list, with number 1 being CalPERS liability. Number 2, bond accountability. Number 3, reserve policy. And 4, long-term sustainability. So however the committee would like to assign members to those tasks, I'm here to just make note of that and record it, and we will put that on the new, the next agenda for subcommittee updates.
Thank you. And so would that assignment come in the next meeting, or should we assign it now?
You can assign now.
Okay. Looking at that list, first, let's see if there are any public comments before we move into a committee discussion.
I have no requests. Jennifer, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers.
All right. I'll open it up to the committee. Looking at the 4 areas, and they are prioritized in order. Yes, Nicole?
Correct.
Do we have anyone who feels a particular affinity or experience that would lend themselves to volunteering on any of the subcommittees?
Mr. Chair, could I
Yes.
ask a question about that real quick?
Certainly.
So we had it, before Mr. Bacon had resigned, we had a CFD committee. And our goal was to improve the public awareness with that, and was working with staff briefly, we didn't get too far into it, on updating the website and so forth, and making it, for lack of a better word, a little more user-friendly for the public. Are we still going to continue with that committee? Is this part of that, Nicole and Mr. Chair? I'm not sure if that still stays in place. And if so, then I need a new committee member to join me on that.
Yeah, I would say, correct me if I'm wrong on this, that position or that subcommittee would remain in place. These would be additional over and above the existing subcommittees. Is that correct?
All right, very good. Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
You're absolutely correct. There were 3 other existing subcommittees there was work in progress. One was the internal audit committee that Steve and I have been working on. Then there was the CFD training and FAQ, and then there was going to be a financial training 101 for the citizenry of Beaumont to have some basic financial understanding. So they're an existing. Our internal audit is actually completed. We did that last month, I guess it was, Steve. We went in and reviewed the audit deficiencies and checked to see that the plans that were designed are being implemented, and we did observe that things look like they're in order.
That is correct. I think that it's something that probably ought to remain until we see what's going on with the next exterior audit, or still remain in place so that it's able to pick up and take off and run, even though there may not be any active things going on right now. Yeah, I think we don't have any active items we need to look at, but I think that they could come up on an ongoing basis. So I think rather than disbanding that, we just kind of go in
a hold. I agree.
In a holding pattern.
Yeah, the others more or less have an end line for them. This one here could be ongoing because we have an audit every year, and there may be something that arises. So we may not have anything to report. I did report out that we had performed that to the city council. So we do need to fill in the rest of these, as Mr. Fenn had indicated. He needs somebody there. We need people on these other 4 because I have promised the council some update and results here, and we were dark last month, and we didn't have enough people the time before to make the assignments. So, Mr. Chair, let's go.
All right. I agree. I think that internal control subcommittee should be a standing committee. And as the need arises, they can move into action. In regards to these other 4, so actually before we move into that, would we need, since we need to replace someone on the CFD training and FAQ committee, can we appoint someone tonight, or does that need to then carry over to the next meeting since that's not on the agenda?
I feel you could probably do it on this item, or you could wait until the subcommittee updates, since it is on the agenda.
Okay. All right, we'll wait for the subcommittee updates to address that, and we'll move on these 4 right now. Starting with number 1, are there any members volunteering for the CalPERS Liability Subcommittee?
Well, let me start off really quick. Let me just say, I'd be happy to be on the CFD training, but we can wait. I know that's coming up later on. But I think I would be most passionate about reserve policy. Just want to throw that out there. But if other people are, I'm willing to move around too. So
Sure. If that's, Member Vanderpool, if your passion there is reserve policy, would you be open then to our placing you on that committee?
yes, please go ahead.
All right. Member Vanderpool, duly noted.
I would like to volunteer that I have some extensive experience with reserves and reserve requirements and accounts. I also think that I could do that well. I'm very willing to fill in as needed. CalPERS is particularly complex. I don't have a lot of experience with it. I would be willing to put some effort and time into that. And of course, long term, I think just hits any of us. It's a concept that shouldn't be alien to any of us. And so, same token, I don't have a problem with doing that if needs be. But part of this is going to be very key on the new members that we receive. What do we have? 3 openings?
Yeah, I believe we have one opening on the committee, and we would have 2 alternate openings, but plus,
Yeah.
what were our vacancies?
2 vacancies.
So, and of course,
Two vacancies.
it's a couple months down the road, and we don't know who we're going to
Right.
get or what kind of experience, but we can't sit around and wait for that to happen, but we can hopefully get somebody or some people that might be, have some skills in those areas.
Well, I think we are short on some people, but we ought to probably look at the priorities. One, the existing subcommittees, I think, need to be addressed because they were work in progress. And then based on the council's priority, I would say we need to get up a team on the CalPERS liability and on bond accountability to start with. And I'd be willing to work on the CalPERS liability because I imagine I'll be with Jennifer, and I'm going to guess Todd, because I know I've spoken to him before about this. He's kind of understands the issues.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point, Barry. The council did list those 2 as their top 2. So, and we are down people. So I can move myself to bond accountability. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Okay. I will
Yeah,
also,
we don't have to do all these at one time. That's why they gave us a priority list, and I think that's
Right.
fair. Let's
Yeah.
do 1 or 2 of them really well, and then we can move on to the others.
yeah, I agree. So then we will move Mr. Member Vanderpool to bond accountability, and I'll volunteer for that as well.
Okay.
Okay, and I'll volunteer to jump into CalPERS as well, so that in addition to city appointees and employees, we have somebody from our committee.
All right, so right now I have Vice Chair Cooley and Treasurer Janetti representing the Finance and Audit Committee on the CalPERS Liability Subcommittee. Myself, Chairman Lemasters, and Member Vanderpool representing the Committee on Bond Accountability. Do we have anyone on the city staff side who would be sitting on those committees?
Yeah, I could fill in there.
All right. On both or one in particular?
Yeah, I could do both.
Okay. And is it the sense of the committee that 3 members for each of those subcommittees should suffice? Is there any objection to that?
I think it is. I mean, we can explore and come back with what we find. If I think it's basically a good understanding of those issues in some format to let the council have an understanding that everything's working in the right way, or any recommendations we may have in those areas.
All right.
I would agree. let's get up and get running and see what we find. If there needs to be an additional person, we can do it, or if we find that it's totally covered and we can kick somebody loose to do something else. But for right now, let's jump on them as top priority and get going.
What about Mr. Fenn's request for somebody for, that was the CFD?
Yes, we were going to circle back to the subcommittee updates.
Yeah.
Time to address that.
Okay.
At this time, then, what we have before us is the stated membership proposed for the CalPERS liability and bond accountability subcommittees, and holding off on the reserve policy and long-term sustainability until a future date. Is there a motion to address these?
One thing before we do that, perhaps we should give a date when we're going to circle back to numbers 3 and 4, so that they just don't end up out there in limbo land.
Yep.
Maybe February, and we'll know who the new people are. And if we're ready to jump in, then great. If not, it isn't something that'll just be lost.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I was thinking January or February myself, because we'll have our new members on and that'll give them something they can actively get involved in.
Right.
Chairman, I can suggest if you don't want to pin down a date, all of the tasks I can put under subcommittee updates so that they're constantly reoccurring, so that when you guys get to a point in time where you feel like it'd be good to appoint, it'll already be on the agenda.
That would be perfect. Is there a motion for the membership of those first two subcommittees for the CalPERS liability and bond accountability?
I'll make that a motion.
Motion by Vice Chair Cooley. Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Who was the second?
Mr.
Barry
Kennedy.
Janetti.
Thank you. Treasurer Janetti seconds. Clerk, please call the roll.
And Councilmember Martinez, I see you on there, so I'll call your name and you can choose to abstain or to vote. Councilmember Martinez?
You're on mute.
And I thought I did elegant. Anyway, yeah, I came in late, so I will abstain, so thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fenn?
Yes.
Treasurer Janetti?
Yes.
Chairman LeMasters?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cooley?
Yes.
Member Marufo?
Yes.
Member Vanderpool?
Yes.
Motion carries. Welcome, Councilmember Martinez.
Thank you. And I'm sorry I'm late. I thought I'd be here earlier, but I had to put my 2 cents in at that last Cal Cities meeting. Chair, can you do me a favor and just let me know who was appointed to 1 and 2?
Yes, for the CalPERS Liability Subcommittee, Vice Chair Steve Cooley, Treasurer Janetti, and Finance Director Eustachian will be the staff member. For Bond Accountability, it's myself, Member Vanderpool, and also Director Eustachian.
Perfect. Thank you.
Item number 4 on the agenda, FY 2022 General Fund and Wastewater Fund Budget to Actual through October 2021, and First Quarter Investment Report and Certification. Staff report, please. Director Jennifer Eustachian.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and good evening, everyone. I have a few reports to go over with you this evening. First being our fiscal year 22 General Fund and Wastewater Fund Budget to Actual reports through October. And I'll start with our general fund. We're 4 months now into fiscal year 22. I wanted to point out that property tax is received in January and May, so that's why that's a little low. You have only 2 months of sales tax has been received, but for the 2 months we've received, it's trending high. Our building permit activity is higher than what it normally is this time last year, so that's good. That helps to offset the expected decrease of investment return, which is due to low interest rate market. That low rate market continues to persist. Going into our expenses, our personnel costs are trending to have a savings. However, our recruitment line is trending a little high, but not too bad. There's still going to be a savings there. And our utilities are trending slightly high. So we've begun looking into that to see if we can find any anomalies there. On August 3rd, City Council approved a budget amendment for unspent prior year appropriations, and they reappropriated $214,799 for fiscal year 22. So that leaves City Council with $741,845 of available funds that's available for appropriation throughout the year. And it's still early on, but it looks as though there's about a $400,000 surplus, but that we'll reevaluate that as we continue on throughout the year. Moving on to the wastewater fund, we have one of 6 utility billings recorded. Again, we have a low rate market for interest earnings, so that's coming in estimated than lower budget. In the expense side, we have 8 of 26 pay periods are recorded, and costs are trending lower than budget. Our fuel costs are trending higher than budget. That's not really a surprise, as anyone that goes to the pump knows. Supplies are trending a little lower, but we're still early on in the fiscal year, so we'll monitor that as it goes. And we have one of 2 of our debt service payments that have been recorded. And so based on those projections, we have approximately about $208,000 we retained for utility reserves for fiscal year 22. And that's driven mostly by savings in personnel and operating costs and a slight increase of the revenues. So before I go on to our first quarter investment reports, I'm going to stop here and see if there's any questions.
Are there any questions from the committee?
I have a comment that may help you, Jennifer. Looking at our budget over at Four Seasons, where I'm on the finance committee, electric went up 11.2%, I believe. And I think it went into effect in the last quarter of the year. So that may be where you're starting to see it. We've noticed it. And one of those things you can't do a lot about. Right. That may be part of your answer.
Great. Thank you.
Any more questions or comments from the committee? Are there any comments from the public yet?
I have no written comments. Jennifer, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers.
All right, thank you. Director Eustachian, please continue.
Okay. I have for you our fiscal year 22 first quarter investment report and certification. You'll see I've added some reports in here, and this is to be completely in compliance with our new investment policy that was approved on May 18th of 2021. So what I have for you is the quarterly investment report. We've done a certification along with that report, pooled cash report, our investments that are held by our third-party trustee, and the maturities for those investments with the third-party trustee. I've highlighted some significant transactions that have taken place within the first quarter. We had a wire transfer from Citibank to the trustee in the amount of $16,052,765.61, and that was for the September 1st debt service payment. We had a wire transfer of unspent the state and local fiscal recovery funds and earmarked project funds in the amount of $3,631,158.38 to the Bank of Hemet construction account to be able to track that separately and earn interest. And we have our LAIF interest for the quarter ended, June 30, 2021. That was credited to the city's LAIF account in July in the amount of $60,874.23. And now in comparison to the prior year, for the quarter at the same previous time, it was $142,770.16, which is due to a interest rate decrease from 1.47% to 2.33%, which is 33 basis points. I can let you know right now that LAIF is sitting at about 20 basis points. So we're hoping that that'll start increasing here in the near future. So going on to that, you can see that I've attached a lot of different reports here. I know that some of them are new, so I'm here to answer any questions that any of you may have related to these reports.
Thank you, Director Eustachian. Are there any public comments at this time?
I have no requests. Jennifer, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers.
All right, I'll open it up for committee discussion. Are there any questions or comments at this time? Member Fenn. Council
Thank
member.
you. Jennifer, can you give me a kind of just a general breakdown? So I was the one that had requested what our estimated ending balances are in the general fund and the restricted fund where we have 17.3 million there, and in the wastewater, 5.6. So when I see the number for LAIF and what's there, and see a 49, almost $49 million, how does that break down? And is that kind of used as a checking account to pay the expenses throughout the year and so forth? Because that's certainly a lot bigger than the reserves that are accounted for. So how does that balance out? How does that work?
So if you look at this pooled investment portfolio holdings report, I believe it's page 17 of your attachments. You'll see on here, there's different deposit accounts. And so the Citibank checking is your pooled cash account. And so that is basically your checking account that's used, and it's used for all of your funds that are attached to pooled cash. And then you also have your LAIF account. So if you go into your pooled cash report, which is the next report over, that explains how your cash is distributed beyond your funds. And that would be your Citibank checking account, the pooled cash, along with your LAIF cash. And so those cash balances are what is being used for revenues coming in and expenses going out. And so that's just showing the activity that's taking place within the quarter. So you have your beginning balance, the activity, and then your current balance as of the 9/30 date. Does that help explain that?
Yeah, it does. And I'll look at it in a little bit more detail as well. I didn't get a chance to go through those 2 pages that much, but I appreciate the explanation. That'll help.
And just a note too, that your pooled cash report, this is just cash. So this is not your ending fund balance. So this is just your pooled cash, which would be the general checking along with the LAIF funds.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
Are there any other questions or comments from the committee? Sorry, are there any other questions or comments from the committee?
Yes, Chair, I have a quick comment.
Yes, Councilmember Martinez.
Yeah, so Jennifer, thank you. I just want to make the comment that I really feel comfortable with these reports being transparent to the public. In the last, 4 or 5 years I've been here, we haven't had this type of transparency, I don't believe, with all of the reports. It just gives it that another way of the public to look at some of these numbers. And I know some of them are a little hard to understand, but it's there and it's open for questioning. So that's why I really appreciate this. And as a council member for me as well, because it looks a different layer that I hadn't seen before. And although I was comfortable in other ways of looking at the numbers, this gives me another way of looking at them. So I do appreciate that. I haven't had a chance to go through some of the new reports yet. But as I've been looking through them kind of over, I've noticed some of the questions I've had in the past are answered by looking at the report. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that. And, I know it's a lot, probably more work to kind of create these other ones, but I think that's really our duty to the public to have those on record. So thank you for that.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilmember Martinez. Are there any other questions or comments from the committee? Seeing and hearing none, is there a motion to receive and file the attached report?
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Treasurer.
I move that we receive and file the financial reports as presented tonight.
Motion by Treasurer Janetti. Is there a second?
I will second it.
Second by Vice Chair Cooley. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Councilmember Fenn?
Yes.
Treasurer Janetti?
Yes.
Chairman LeMasters?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cooley?
Yes.
Member Marufo?
Yes.
And Member Vanderpool?
Yes.
Moving on to the next item on the agenda, subcommittee updates. Are there any updates from the Internal Control Committee?
Steve, I can't remember. Did we give him our update when we went over and reviewed the 3 areas that were questionable from the audit?
Yeah, I believe that we did 2 periods ago. We have one issue you and I are still discussing, but I don't think we're ready to make a report on that yet. But I think that I think we're good. I think we're sitting with basically the work done, just wrapping it up, and that will require some discussion.
Thank you, Vice Chair Cooley. Any questions for the Internal Control Committee from the members? I see and hear none. Any comments from the public?
I have no requests. Jennifer, anyone on the line?
No callers.
Thank you. The Financial Training Committee, is there a report from this committee?
Sure, I can talk about that. We're pretty much done with our presentation at this point, so maybe a future meeting, we can present it to you guys or whatever you guys would like. We can definitely do, but we're pretty close to being done with that. We are in agreement, Steve, Jennifer, and I, that it's looking good, and we're ready to present it when you guys see fit.
Thank you very much, Member Vanderpool. Are there any questions for the Financial Training Committee? Members of the committee?
I have just one comment. I think that, and maybe this should be on the next thing, I think we should present that at the next meeting, because I think we're to the point that it's ready to go.
Okay.
Mr. Vanderpool, you agree? Jennifer,
Yeah,
you agree?
I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm ready. We can present it at the next meeting. I'm not exactly sure. I guess I could ask Jennifer what we would do after that, if we're going to put it on the website or what we're doing as far as that's concerned, as far as educating the public how they're going to have access to it. But of course, before we do that, we need to present it. So yeah, I think that would be the next step.
Yeah, we need to do it with the committee here, and then I think the city council would also like to see it before it gets
Right.
put up on the site or
Right.
anything. So
I totally
the
understand.
sooner we can have it here and we can sort of vet it, I can then
Okay.
have it arranged to be on the agenda for an upcoming meeting.
Sounds good. Well, I know Jennifer has it. So Jennifer, could you go ahead and get it to whomever you know it's necessary to get it to?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, and we can address this under the future agenda items as well. Are there any questions from the public on the Financial Training Committee?
I have no comments. Jennifer, anyone on the line?
No callers.
CFD Training and FAQ Subcommittee, report from the committee.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just to report back, we do need a new member. We had previously reported we met once, but that as far as we have gotten. And with Mr. Bacon's resignation, not to say we're dead in the water, but I'd like to have two committee members and staff working on it together, so.
Are there any members of,
Who's the remaining committee member?
It's just myself and Mr. Parton.
I could do it. I'm happy to. We're pretty much done with the financial awareness, so I'm cool to move into that.
all right, is there any objection from the committee on moving Mr. Vanderpool into the open slot on CFD Training and FAQ Committee? Hearing no objection, let's go ahead and move that forward. Do we need to have a vote on that, Nicole?
That'd probably be best.
All right. Is there a motion to place Member Vanderpool to replace Mr. Bacon in the CFD Training and FAQ Committee?
I'll make a motion to place Mr. Vanderpool in the vacant position on the CFD Training and FAQ Committee.
Motion by Vice Chair Cooley. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Fenn. Please call the roll, clerk.
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Councilmember Fenn?
Yes,
Treasurer Janetti?
Yes.
Chairman LeMasters?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cooley?
Yes.
Member Marufo?
Yes.
And Member Vanderpool?
Yes.
Motion carries. Congratulations, Member Vanderpool.
Thank you. So I
Next-
guess then I would need some sort of update as far as the work you've already done. Councilmember Fenn, if you could go ahead and send me an email or communicate with me
Sure.
somehow.
yeah, and maybe what we can do is we can have Mr. Parton or Nicole reach out and we'll find a good time to meet. We did it via Zoom before and
Okay.
we did a brief overview of what is on the website. I had seen the information is there, We want to work on getting it in a more easy to find and easier to understand format. So
Sounds good to
that's
me.
kind of our goal. That was kind of our one sentence goal for the committee.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda, future agenda items. I will go ahead and bring up wanting to place the Financial Training Committee's presentation for the next agenda. If the clerk can note that for our next meeting.
Yes, sir.
Does anyone have any other future agenda items they would like to address? I do not see or hear any. And Nicole, we are going to be placing the reports from the non-occupied subcommittees in the future subcommittee updates, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, meeting review, Treasurer Janetti.
Okay, wow, we were busy tonight. I will notify the council about our vacancy situation, that we have 2 vacancies for active participants, but the application process is open so that we can get those positions filled. I will give them the update relative to the subcommittee assignments and our decision that based on the amount of members we have right now, that we are going to put a hold before proceeding on number 3 and 4, the reserve financial policies and the long-term financial sustainability, just so we can work on the others. And I have the assignments for the calipers liability will be Janetti, Cooley, and Eustachian. And the bond accountability will be Vanderpool, Lemaster, and Eustachian. The update as far as the other subcommittees that have been existing for the past year and a half, 2 years. We will talk about the internal control audit, which I did give them an update on, but let them know that we're not going to disband that group. They will be around as needed when the next audit comes, or if there's other kind of internal issues that we need to review. I will let them know that the financial training 101, I have it written down in my notes, that a presentation has been completed and will be presented at our next meeting, which will be December, and that we assigned another person to the CFD training because we had lost somebody in FAQ, and that's work in progress. We'll get an update as they sort of coalesce where they are and proceed. That's all I have.
Thank you, Treasurer Janetti. Any comments or questions from the committee for the treasurer? Clerk, are there any comments from the public?
I have no comments. Jennifer, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers.
Next item on the agenda, the Finance Director's comments. Director Eustachian.
Thank you, Chair. We've been busy in our finance office. We are getting through the RFP proposals for cost allocation and fee study. We have some interviews scheduled, and we're hoping to bring a contract forward to council in December for that. We are still within our audit process for fiscal year 21. We have a few outstanding items remaining, but those should be wrapping up here. And I hope to have a draft to you by the beginning of December so we can go over that at our December meeting. That's the goal. And we are in the beginning of our budget process for fiscal year 22-23, meeting with council on next Monday, the 15th, for a budget workshop. And that's all my comments for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Eustachian. Are there any questions or comments for the director from the committee?
I do have one quick question.
Yes, Councilmember Finn.
On that finance workshop, is that just a kind of one-time, once-a-year thing, or is it a series of workshops?
For the budget workshop, it can be one or it could be a series. So
Okay.
it depends on what we get done and what we need to continue to get. And I would imagine that we would have at least 2 this fiscal year.
Okay, all right, very good, thanks.
Anything else from members of the committee? Are there any questions or comments from the public?
I have none. Jennifer, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers.
Very good. The next regular meeting of the Finance and Audit Committee is scheduled for Monday, December 13th, 2021 at 6 p.m. Without objection, I'll declare this meeting adjourned at 6:46 p.m.
Cool. All right.
See you all later. Good evening.
Yes.
Everybody.
Take care, everybody.